this morning in studio, we have with us Dr. Phillips. Of course, I have my co-host, Mr. Francis, and Mr. Kelly,
Hi, team.
who is very high on coffee over there
Yes,
and has
ma'am.
energy surplus. So, if you're just joining us, we want to make you aware that you have missed out on some very, very informative sessions. But fear not, because we do continue this segment with Dr. Phillips, and there is way more to be learned and way more to be explored. Now, Dr. Phillips, tell us a little bit about how can the PNP take a collaborative approach to crime and all forms of violence? Because if you note, when you talk to young people, and if you look in the media, a lot of persons, they are looking at things in Jamaica to say, even when things are getting better, we're still struggling with the big issue of crime and violence. Now, what's your take on this?
Well, let me start where you started, which is that I believe, and it is the view of the party, that it is a national issue which requires all the stakeholders in the country to collaborate and to be part of the solution. For that reason, we have been always insisting in our discussions with the government at the Vale Royal talks. We have even got to the point where we had agreed and named a date for an all-stakeholder summit consultation on the matter of crime. And we think it is important because there is a mistaken view that the solution to crime is really a matter of boots, guns, police, and soldier.
Okay.
It will involve that, but it goes much further than that. Because, put it simply, the question is how do you, where this desire, this will to kill comes from?
Yes.
And why and how do we change it?
Yes.
I don't want to go on too long, but I think it's an important question. Because remember that there are countries in the world, take a place like Switzerland,
Yes.
we're quite the opposite of us, where that's any man that have an illegal gun. Any man that has a gun, we try to limit the supply, limit the legality. They require quite the opposite. That every adult male should have one, because they don't have a standing army and they have relied always on a volunteer army. So everybody has an M16 or the equivalent. Carried home. I mean, I've gone to countries where you see soldiers and people walking with their weapons around. Now, what we have is a situation where lots of people feel excluded, marginalized, living on the edge of society and develop a lot of hostility. And often, because of that, they get embedded in criminal networks. And interestingly, Herbert Gale, a sociologist or anthropologist up at the university, makes a very interesting point that it is in the family situation that a lot of our pathological killers develop, and that you can see the signs early in school. So all of this means that we have to have a multifaceted approach to crime control. You have to identify the dysfunctional minds and consciousness from early in the school system, watching the youth who is very brutal to animals, his peers, and so. And it's not an intervention to lock him up. It's an intervention
Change
to change the mindset and see what's happening mentally.
Right.
Yes.
You also, as one of the things I learned when I was Minister of National Security, and which led us to establish what is known as the Peace Management Initiative, PMI, and that there was so much violence that a lot of the violence you couldn't solve by just putting more violence on top of it. You had to solve it by getting a dialogue going even among the people and the communities that were inclined to violence.
Right.
Because if you work out that you had, you had a few hundred gangs, they say, in the country,
Yes.
and if each gang has 10 or 20, and each gang have 10, so it's 6,000, and each gang member have family members who may be disposed that a member of the gang are friends who accept violence as a way of life. Then you're dealing with 100,000, 60,000 people, and you can't do it by locking them all up.
Right. It has to be something else.
So you have to find another mechanism, which is
solve.
to start the dialogue. And the Peace Management Initiative, the first chairman that we had appointed was Bishop Herobler. And we recognize that it caused a problem for the minister or the public officials to go into communities that are about to embark on gang violence, but you could get other stakeholders in the country, peace-minded people, to go inside there. And that's the Peace Management Initiative. And in fact, what we have seen in northern St. Catherine following the state of emergency with the reduced levels of crime, I believe is largely due to the interventions of the Peace Management Initiative, who were very active there and who have had some success. Now, when it comes to direct policing, that element of it, there is again one very important lesson that I learned. It particularly had effect on the cocaine trade at the time, and this was the center of the earning of the gangs. Two things.
Okay.
Suppression, simply going into a community that is violent, or a lot of criminals and killings. Suppression can help, but that is to say by just having a big presence, but it can never sustain a reduction. What you have to do is to find the criminal actors, bring cases against them, convict them, bring them to justice, and take them out of circulation. Simply to cloud the place and the criminal go underground, go somewhere else, do whatnot, doesn't change anything much. Unless you're going to stay there forever.
So multifaceted
But you
approach.
see, I always wonder though, after these interventions of going in, how, well, probably we can't learn the plan of apprehending them, but then I think there needs to be some measures in place then to get the persons who are really committing the crime.
That's the point I'm
Yes, so
making.
I would like to see, I
So
don't know,
you're
as a
endorsing
youngster,
that.
I would like to see that happen.
No, but that means beefing up your intelligence and your investigation capacity. What we did, what I did when I was Minister of Security, we had a thing called Operation Kingfish, which was aimed simply at the time the saying, here are the top 100 targets, who are the most dangerous, 10,
Okay.
20.
Okay.
Okay? These are the people. Your intelligence has to
Yes.
tell you that.
Yes.
Huh? So you know who doing that, who bringing in guns, who shooting people, whoever gang
Yes,
doing
yes.
murder for hire, and are running cocaine, and which was the main thing at the time. Other illegal activities are now sent, although from what I hear, there's a kind of troubling return of that cocaine operation taking place.
Okay.
Remember, criminality, is not just a man get wayward, criminality, serious criminality, is organized crime.
Yes.
It's being done for money. It is a way of earning and accumulating millions and millions of dollars. The average youth on the road with a AK-47 M16 that can't find shoes, it is somebody buying the gun and giving him and keeping that army going. So you have the intelligence information, you have to convert that to a case. You require international cooperation oftentimes because most serious crime is cross-border crime, international crime.
Okay.
Scamming is international
No,
crime.
yes.
cocaine is international crime. Gun import and gun running is international crime. International crime means that you have to collaborate with international partners.
Yes.
But to collaborate with international partners, you also need to establish the parameters, the agreements, the cooperation, the sharing of information. And again, all the reports that I have received tells me that all is not well on that. Sometimes you have to stand up to your partners too. I mean, so things, the reports that we have heard about how our Jamaican fishermen have been treated by the security forces, U.S. Coast Guard.
Yes.
Right.
You have to put down your foot and make it plain that is not acceptable.
Yes.
But just simply withdrawing and not doing anything don't make sense. We are living in a dangerous hemisphere.
Right.
To the south of us, you have cocaine producing countries and other drug countries. You have gun running going on through Central America and up into Mexico. You have Haiti, Dominican Republic, and us in the middle. You know, we are ideally located as a transshipment point. 1 hour sail,
Yes.
1 night sail from South America, you're into Jamaica. 1 night sail in the other direction, you're into Bahamas and the United States. And so that was once upon a time 20% of the cocaine going into the United States used to come to Jamaica's territorial waters.
So, Dr. Phillips, I hear you, but let's take a little deviation from the whole crime and all of that. Talk to us about the fact that the economy is looking up, but youth are still being underpaid. You have youth who are graduating from universities and not being able to find jobs. You have them leaving the country and that kind of a thing. So, what are your plans to improve this for us as young people?
Well, the first thing I think that we have to face in dealing with that is that we need to move away from a kind of low-wage model of investment, promotion, and economic growth and development. To deal with that point, that is to say, we have to find a way of having an economy that doesn't just work for a minority of big businesses, with the majority of the people performing the role of low-wage producers, operators. That means that we first of all have to have a specific way of bringing high-wage operations, dealing with the application of science and technology, and so having specialized science parks that are attracting, dealing with things like pharmaceuticals and all of that.
Right. So not to
But there are other elements, but I presume you want to take a break.
Yes.
You have to pay the bills.
The conversation is just so
Take the
deep
break
and so
and come back
riveting.
to it.
But we'll be right back here on the Talk Up Radio Show, the voice of the Jamaican youth. Talk Up Youth, Mr. F.
Talk of youth.
We'll be right back.
Your pickup or signal.
You're on point, Dr. Phillips.
Tell me some ways to the blueprint now.
It's not Shelly. Period. Yes, I'm looking at 7, 13, and some of the not so heavy
I want
topics.
11, please. No.
I like 11 too.
No.
Yes.
Please,
As the type
11.
of question that we can ask, you know, more of the, I think what Bree asking about succession planning. 11 is about ministers and transparency and accountability. So I think those would be good now to address narration. No, I'm saying 11, Bree was asking
But
about.
I haven't finished it.
Yeah, but you're going to come back to that
Hold on.
question.
So you're saying 11 and then?
Yeah, so we're looking at 11, which is about ministers and accountability and mixed scandals. And 13 is dealing with vision for youth and living their best lives. I think those are good questions.
For the next question, right?
So he wants to finish Stephen's point and then we can move into those. And then you had something about voter apathy, which I think is good here
Yes.
as well.
Yes, where's voter apathy?
It's not here.
We never get to put it
But we
on.
had it, yeah.
Write it down so you can adjust it as well.
That's why I segued into the youth thing so that we could move from.
That.
So I think, alright, so when we come back then, we go a little bit, we go to the scandal. Hold on, what we're...
No, he's going to finish his
No,
point.
when we come back, he's finishing his point on the economy and young people migrating, that type of thing.
Right.
So I still not seeing where the scandal is sitting in.
No. I think the next one is about 13.
13. I would go
Living
to
their best
13,
lives.
yes.
Right.
And then the voter apathy.
Yeah, we can do voter apathy. And
I don't know if we could. Alright, guys, so
We're going to have
Good
a
or-
one till
we're going to 12. Okay, so we have more time.
yeah, we have more time, so we can ask somebody.
And
I mean, like at 10 to 1.
yes.
They only reach 10 to 12.
Well, you'll probably get to leave a little bit earlier than you planned.
Alright.
But I'll see what I
But
can
he's
do.
enjoying the
Yes.
conversation.
Yeah.
He actually wanted to stay until 1 with us.
Oh, no, man.
You're an
I
ambassador
heard
for the day.
a little birdie told me, you know, that you're spending all that time.
You know, you're a talk of ambassador for the day.
Alright, guys, so we're back on air. So just come back in.
Please.
Not even we get paid. Before you go back though, still engage and tell them that the numbers to call if anybody wants. So open the lines in case anybody wants to call and ask a question. Kingston.
Welcome back. Welcome back to Talk Up Radio. Just a reminder that in studio this morning we have with us Dr. Phillips. And we've been talking about so many issues that are so important to young people and the nation. I just want to remind you, if you have questions that you'd want Dr. Phillips to answer now, or if you just want to chip in on our conversation,
Yes.
feel free to call 630-9371. And that goes all the way to 4. That's 630-9371. But I know we're very eager to get back to what Dr. Phillips was saying.
Right.
So we're going to go back into the conversation where we're speaking about how the economy is doing well, but our young people are still migrating or sourcing or trying to seek other means overseas.
Underpaid.
Well, one of the
What's
things,
happening?
absolutely. One of the things that we need to do is, as I said, we have to create a much more varied set of sectors and economic offerings. Yesterday I was talking to a group of youths, well, young people, all between 19 and 20, included graduates out of UWI, marine biology, biotechnology, biophysics, and things like that. Now, computer,
Text.
software design. We need to create the industries, and we're going to have to provide a mix of incentives, not always tax, that attract those industries into our country.
Okay.
Because the truth is that we're training the people, but those skills, if we don't find a place to employ them,
Yes.
they're only going to be employable overseas.
Overseas,
And
yes.
then it is it's a loss on so many levels. We have to create a fairer economy, and that means a lot of things. First of all, in policy terms, what I see happening now is a lot of unfairness. I mean, if you look up at Constant Spring, all the adjustment that had to be made for the road was with the market people. None of the other business establishment, gas station, pharmacy was asked to do that. It's only the market people. Those things create a sense of distrust and unfairness. All the way states of emergency, the fast food established giant brand name, them open till late. But the corner shop and the pan chicken man and the roast fish vendor is being told that he must come off the street early. It don't compute. It creates a sense of unfairness, and it speaks to the question of economic inclusiveness. And so we have said, me and the People's National Party, that a primary focus is a new economy. Imagine a new economy putting emphasis on small and medium-sized businesses
Right.
to grow, and on solving the land problem, which will again provide the boost for the small farmers, 60% of whom have no title to the land. And by virtue of that, they end up not being able to go to the bank, get the loans, and therefore end up with 18th century, 19th century technology, whole machete. And that will keep you poor in life. You can't sustain modern agricultural production with that. But also, dealing with the land titling problem in the urban areas will unlock a lot of people energy. One of the things that we don't realize that we have to solve many things, but that a lot of the innovation, and we have to sponsor innovative ideas, but it comes out of the small business sector. The young family who learned and produced a sorrel picking machine in Jamaica. That not big business people, two young people come out of practical experience. Now anybody, I know you guys don't know what it is to have a pick sorrel.
At Christmas time, I'm sure somebody must know.
But that, or you never really realize that you could do, invent things. That there's a machine to do
can
it.
take care of that.
And it was done by some Jamaican people who did it. But it is to incentivize,
that kind of
to let
initiative.
go, to free up that initiative by making finances available to the small and sponsoring that kind of operation.
To fuel their
Yeah,
innovation.
yeah.
Right.
Fabrizio asks, how important is succession planning to you, particularly as it relates to grooming young adults to take up the political mantle?
Well, is the most important thing, because quite frankly, everybody is going to have to move on, all of us. And the real challenge of any parent, as I was saying to some people the other day, is to prepare your children to get on without you. I mean, that's the real task of parenting. To train them that you won't be here and get on without you. And our challenge is to ensure that this mission of building a functioning and prosperous and progressive Jamaican nation is taken up by generations coming. And that involves two things, though. It involves equipping people with the education, the skills that are needed, but it also involves shaping a consciousness of patriotism, of commitment to country, a consciousness which has the values, including the values of honesty and integrity, the values that put country above self, that put the collective above the individual, because those things are important parts of creating a well-functioning nation. There are some simple things in life that form an impression on you.
Right.
I remember when I went to North America as a student, and I was driving through parts of New England, as of Massachusetts, and saw these bundles of corn, like when we buy roast corn and things.
Right.
And all there was on the thing, there was a table, the corn, a bottle, and a sign with the price. Nobody. And when I thought, I said, no, this is an amazing thing. I couldn't imagine it happening anywhere that I knew. That a man put up a sign and said, this is the price, and money in the bottle. And people put in the money and I take it out and just leave it. And it is a sign of the kind of consciousness that we need to be aiming for.
And it's important that you mention consciousness and patriotism and the whole need for a purposeful and progressive Jamaica. But in order for us to have that, and you alluded to it, is that we need the involvement of youth. So my question to you, Dr. Phillips, is how do you as an individual, how does your party intend to tackle the whole issue of voter apathy among youth?
Well, first of all, by directly talking to youth, I have asked Vice President of the party, Damian Crawford, to lead a team that is specifically reaching out to the youth to have a discussion and a dialogue with them about their view of things.
Right.
Because if you don't engage somebody, you won't be able to know what are the things. You can only imagine that you know the things that concern them, but you won't hear from them, and you need to hear from them.
Right.
The second thing is that following those discussions and discussions that have been held before, is to fashion a set of policies that will specifically attract youth. I mean, that's why we have looked, for example, at the whole question in the Student Loan Bureau, for example, and how you can make it more accessible, which we have done, and actually functioning. How including capping the payments
Right.
as a proportion of earnings,
Right.
including writing off some of the obligations in exchange for public service, which deals with both the consciousness issue and the affordability
Right.
at the same time.
Balancing it out.
Yeah. Including looking at the shaping of the curriculum in schools, because oftentimes we treat school as just a place that is to share information, how many rivers. When I think of some of the things that I studied hard and shed tears over in school, and I haven't used them